Okay, these several things we're fixing to do are really good exercises as far as a horse's turning is concerned. Usually, if you're falling into your turn or drifting out of your turn, the problem lies within these few things we're fixing to do. So I do a whole lot of them because it's really, really important that your horse be able to separate the difference in what you're asking for as far as turning concerns. The first one is going to be going into a leg yield. He'll be bent to the left, moving his shoulders to the right, leading his hind end. The second is going to be, I'm going to come right at the snap of a weight shift, I'm going to come in to having her follow her head around in a symmetrical circle, no drift. And then I'm going to spiral down into a spin or a turnaround, and that's covering all three different steps of what the problem could be. Okay, there's one. Here's two. Following her head around, no drift. And now here's coming in and do a tight turnaround. Okay, same deal to the right. This is the leg yield. Now at just a shift of a weight, very easily I should be able to get her to follow her head around. See the difference there? Here's moving off. This is engaging and coming around. Okay, this is moving up, this is moving off. This is engagement and coming around. It's really important that they know the difference in that. It's good that they can trot these little 5 or 6 foot circles. That's exactly what you're going to do in a tight turn. And then we're going to spiral it down and shorten it up and come into a turnaround. Pick up and move right out of that laterally. Okay, here's move out. This is move in. So those few things, it's really important that they can separate the difference in those exercises, because if you're dropping in, it's because you don't have enough forward motion, which would be good to trot these little 5 foot circles. If she fell into my circle, I wouldn't do more of this. It's good that they can do that. But if she fell into my circle like this, I would just drive her up out of that circle. If their feet are going forward, they can't come in and fall into the circle. So as far as dropping a shoulder, driving them up into the circle further is a lot better than teaching them just to drift on your leg like that. Now we'll just switch into a leg yield. Okay, this is all leg yield, this is picking up, this is moving over. Now, right, on the count of 3, I want to go into a circle where she's actually steering, not just drifting off of my turn. 1, 2, 3. Now on the count of 3, I want to bring her into a really tight turn. 1, 2, 3. And so it's really, really important that they can really separate the difference in which one of those you're wanting, and you should be able to have them do all 3 of those without having to get way out here or without having to jab a spur into their shoulder. Their feet should be that much in your hands. This is going to be a haunches in with a left lead canter departure, hopefully. Okay, watch the hind end, see how it's in. Horse's head is bent in the same direction that her hip is going. Her hip should be leading her shoulders, meaning her hip stays level or in front of her shoulders. This is a haunches in. And that's a canter departure. it's really important that they can do those canter departures and haunches in. That's eventually what's going to be your lead change coming out of a first barrel or turning with a cow or anything. So it's really good to be able to do hind end to the right, hind end to the left, hind end to the right, hind end to the left, and then switch. Front end to the right, front end to the left, front end to the right, front end to the left. Once you have really good control of those, you can put them all together, and that's going to be your side pass. I like for mine to side pass with a straight neck, straight shoulders, and maybe even have their hips leading just a little bit. I don't like them to side pass with their shoulders leading like that. That's a leg yield. This is a leg yield, but when you stop the front end and bring the hind end in line with the shoulders and then move the whole horse as a single unit, that becomes a half pass, or what Western people call a side pass. It's good if you can have them be soft vertically. This is what fitting them up is supposed to do. Bend to the right, break at the pole. Now that's going to be the frame we need for a right lead canter departure. So haunches in to the right. I need to get some bend in her neck. Now we're set up. There's our right lead canter departure. Okay, so all of those things I've just done so far are pieces that all go together to make the next thing, and it all gets interconnected after a while. But some softness in the pole is good, but it also needs to go to their feet. It's good she's soft in her pole, but if she's got her feet stuck, I would be more worried about getting her feet to respond to my cues more than her just doing this or this. Okay, so we're going to start framing her up and getting her positioned to make a right lead canter departure. Get the haunches to the inside. Now, as you can see, the haunches are trailing the inside of the circle. Depart. There's our right lead canter departure. It's good to be able to move them out. But in an instant, you need to be able to have them follow their head around and come on through the turn. And even work on making 10-foot circles and 6-foot circles at a lope. A big 50-foot circle is good, but if you want to ever advance your horse, you've got to start working on the stuff that most people don't want to work on. Like these really tight, trotting really tight circles without falling in and without drifting to the outside. Not many people work in really tight circles like this. Having the haunches lead the shoulders. I'll head off on a straightaway so you can tell better. Haunches to the right. Now I'll bring the haunches back to the left. It's important that you keep your forward momentum in this. Haunches left. Haunches to the right. And it's good if you can get your horse's hind end to walk past his front end in these lateral movements. So watch here. Okay, we'll move the whole horse together. Now watch, I'm going to slow down his front end and have his back end surpass it. Just like that, and then walk out of it. Now we'll do the same thing the other direction. will get the whole horse moving as one unit. Now we're going to slow down his front end and ask his hind end to walk past his shoulders. Just like that. That's what's going to be your lead change. It's really good if you can have your horse coming around a little bit and click to him and jump him out of that. It's really good for a horse to know how to back through his turns. So we're going to back as we bring the shoulders to the right, back and 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 to the right. Now change it up without losing your backwards. Now bring them back and to the left. It's important to keep them backing in this. Back and to the left, back left, back left. Back and to the left, 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 back and to the left. Now I can also go forward and to the right, which is basically a spin. Notice there's forward motion in that. This is when I take away the forward motion. That would be backing through a turn. This is forward motion, turn to the left. Now I'm going to take it away. This would be backing a turn to the left. Notice the difference there. One other thing that will really help a horse in whatever he ends up doing is to have really good rate. Meaning, take them on a 2-mile, 3-mile trail ride and walk, trot, lope, walk, trot, lope. Do like 10 steps in each gait and then start over. Most people get on a horse and they walk to warm up, trot to get a little warmer, and then they lope for 20 minutes, and then they put their horse away. There's very little time spent but transitioning between speeds and length of stride. So I'll get on a horse and I'll do this for 30 minutes when she's not coughing. I'll be in a slow trot with a little bit of a frame, and then I'll extend that trot and hit a faster trot. And then I'll come back into a slow trot. Maintain that for a few feet and then extend it. And then I'll come back into a slow trot. Then I'll come down into a walk for 3 steps. Then I'll get back up in a slow trot. Come down to a walk for 2 steps. Hit a trot again. Walk for 3 steps, go right into a long trot. Now I'll go from a long trot straight into a walk. And I do the same thing in a lope. I'll go from a walk to a lope, from a lope to a walk, from a lope to a trot. And I'll probably, in a 500-foot stretch, I probably would be in each gait for no more than 4 or 5 strides, and then I'm always changing it so they get used to feeling and separating. And it'd be the same thing all the way up to as fast as your horse could run. Eventually, you'd want to have them going as fast as they could, and then with just the slightest inclination, be able to put them in a walk, a trot, or a slow lope. And that's what rate is. I'm going to go out here to the corner where you can tell really good, and I'm going to have her reached out at a lope pretty good, and then I'm going to rate her down to a stop as smoothly as I can. We'll do a whole bunch of those. part, bring up the life, get your horse moving out and going. Now bring it down. Now just let him stand there and think about that. Just drop your reins and pedal. That's what rate is. That's what rate is supposed to be, being able to control the length of stride and the speed within that stride at any stride. So after a year, you keep building and you work up to this. Well, after a year, you should be able to have your horse at a dead run, and then with barely picking up the reins and just slowing down the energy in your body, they should just melt right down to that and stop and stand there. But you have to be willing to work on it. Just loping 50-foot circles at a slow lope for 5 years isn't going to get your horse to where you can be going as fast as they will, and then without using hardly anything, have them back down in a walk in 10, 20 feet. You have to work on that. You got to do a lot more than just loping circles. It's good if you can get them soft vertically and laterally. This is lateral softness. That is vertical softness. They need to be able to do both of them. Lateral softness, vertical softness. And it's important that you are always riding your horse up into that. You don't want to pull your horse back to you. You want to get the frame and then ride them up into that frame. You want to drive them from the hind end up into that broken pole and into your hand. You don't want to pull your horse back into that frame. You want to ride them forward into that frame. Forward motion is the key to all of this. Now you notice she only has length bend. This is the correct amount of bend. It's good if they're soft and you can bend them further like this, but it's incorrect. It disaligns the horse's spine, and it makes it way harder for them to balance and engage their hind end and turn in a balanced manner. That's what you call over-flexing or over-bending. You don't want to get them in the habit of being ridden that way. Where she's at right there is the perfect amount of bend, just enough to see the corner of their inside eye. Now the reason I can trot these little bitty tight circles like this without her dropping her shoulder and falling into it is because I have enough forward motion. I'm riding the inside of my horse forward, and I'm riding the outside of my horse forward. If she fell in, I would just do this. And I would drive her forward up into it, not away from it. When somebody feels a horse getting ready to fall in, the first thing they want to do is this. Well then, after 3 or 4 months of doing that, they get to where anytime they pick up a rein, their horse just, if they pick up this rein, their horse just looks to the left and goes that way. And if those people tried to actually turn their horse with forward motion like that, it would not happen. About 99.9% of the time when a horse drops his shoulder or falls into a turn, it's not from lack of bend, it's from lack of balance. A horse doesn't brace and then drop his shoulder. He drops his shoulder and then braces. A lot of people work that backwards. The bend does not have anything to do with how much balance a horse has. Where he places his feet and how much drive and forward motion coming from the hind end depends on whether a horse is going to drop into the turn or round it off nicely. Driving a horse up into your hand is the best counter for a dropped shoulder. Not this. You can do this all day, but the second you try to turn your horse, he's just going to drop his shoulder anyway, unless you have forward motion. You can have some bend in your horse and walk them forward around a turn.